guys, welcome to Arrow on Target. We are sitting here about to talk about the latest episode, The League of Assassins.
Yeah.
Assassins. There was lots of assassins in this episode.
Lots of assassination type things.
I was live tweeting, we were actually live tweeting back and forth a little bit there. There was a little bit of banter. So
yes.
You can follow us on Twitter at JohnWright777.
And Chris Wright 250.
And you can find the podcast at stayontargetpodcast.com. All right, so let's dive right in, Chris.
Yeah.
As far as this episode goes, it was a little bit slower of a pace than we've become accustomed to this season. So.
Yeah, a little slower, but it was not in a bad way.
No, not in a bad way. I feel like, to me, I felt like that we were pacing ourselves, and it had these nice emotional moments between a lot of the characters.
Yeah, that's what this was. You know, like, it wasn't really about the League of Shadows.
That's correct.
It was more about the relationship of between Sarah and
a lot of people. About Oliver and Detective Lance as well.
Yeah, Detective Lance is the main one.
Right. I mean, it was. You mentioned kind of the redemption between Oliver and her last week on the podcast.
Yeah.
And I feel like this week it was that moment between her and Detective Lance where it meant so much to him. You know, and in fact he said later on to Laurel that, hey, it does get better.
Right.
And she obviously asked him, how do you know? And he's like, no, I can't tell you, but it does.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know about anybody else. I'm tired of Laurel having her little pity party.
Yeah, you're tired of her having her, like, she's having major issues right now.
Her and Oliver's mom,
Moira.
which she's over it now by the end of the episode.
Well, we think so anyway.
Yeah.
At least they've laid down the law at the end of the episode there.
Right.
So okay, let's talk about more a little bit here.
Okay.
So she's facing the death penalty, and then in this episode they threw in this thing of like, well, here's a deal on the table where you get life in prison with a chance of parole.
Right.
And her lawyer's like, that's a terrible deal.
Yeah.
I don't see how that's a terrible deal, to be honest with you. Like, she did collude with someone who killed a lot of people.
Yeah, but if they're saying, if she did it under duress, then she's not liable.
That's true.
And so all you have to do is do you find this person guilty beyond a reasonable doubt? And if there's people on the jury that they can convince, then she won't have to serve life in prison or the death penalty.
Yeah.
Like, death penalty is a lot harder to get a conviction on, than so if they do go for the death penalty, there's probably a higher likelihood that she would be let off than
that's probably true. Yeah. Then like, hey,
otherwise she's reserving herself
25 years or whatever.
Yeah. Otherwise she's reserving herself to life in prison.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. And so like she's offered that deal, and then we resolve that by the end of the episode. She's keeping secrets, and I like that Oliver knows that she's keeping secrets.
Right. Well, the thing
that was nice.
We're sitting there being like, man, she's keeping secrets, but like. Yeah, well, obviously Oliver knows she's keeping secrets, and he addresses it.
Right, and Thea's kind of fed up with her, and and that sort of thing. It was one of the things you literally said, "I'm sick of Moira's pity party."
Yeah,
and then Thea goes, "I can't take this," and walks off.
Yeah,
and I was like, "Neither can you, neither can Chris." So
that was my emotional response. The same way that Thea responded,
and it was a legitimate emotional response. All right, so that kind of wraps her. But as far as like Laurel goes, that character, like, I don't know, it's like she's in this weird limbo right now for me, because like I liked the fact, like I said last week, I liked the idea of her being more complex. Mm-hmm. But like now we're just getting to the point where it's getting ridiculous. Everybody knows what's going on, and everybody has at least seen her, abuse either, some form of like drug or like just be like depressed about something. Everybody has.
Yeah.
So
I mean, the complexity that we were talking about is just seeing a different side of her, rather than just this hopeful, always kind of like, I'm going to think of the best in of the system.
Right.
Like she's kind of just depressed about life. And
right.
while that's okay to go down for a while, just on a TV show like this, as a character, she's just bumming me out, man.
Right. She was also assigned as the second chair for Moira's trial.
Which is odd. How did that happen?
Well,
come on.
Here's the thing to me is I feel like that they needed some way to tie her into that whole mess and to get her in there, and so that's why she is.
I agree with that, but like it didn't feel very natural. It was very forced.
It was kind of like shoehorned in. I feel like it felt like that. Like right off the bat during the episode, it's like, oh, and by the way,
Well, yeah, so. and then I don't like that at all.
Yeah, I it's kind of one of those things. It's in there.
Well, they insert that her saying that conversation with Oliver, like, we can't see each other now because I'm prosecuting your mom. And then like later on in the episode,
She puts the moves on him.
exactly.
Yeah. Well, what did you think about that? It's like obviously she still has feelings for Oliver, you know, because she's moving up on, you know,
she's always been like that.
Yeah.
She's always had feelings for Oliver and probably always will.
You know, and that was kind of one of my quotes of the show was whenever she says that, you know, how many other people are going to run away from me. You know, it's kind of one of those things. She compares it to everybody in her life, which is kind of cool. Yeah. But then on the other hand, it's like, get over it. Come on. You're such a cool character. All right. So moving on to her sister, Laurel. No, not Laurel. Her sister, Sarah. Will basically she's the main character in this episode. Like we deal with her on the island, which like to me, I didn't necessarily need to know all of the details about how she escaped the boat. Because I mean, I kind of just assumed all of that stuff anyway. And then basically we deal with her on this boat on the Amazo, but we still don't know how she gets to the point of torturing Oliver. So
yeah, like. I don't know what's going on there. Like, okay, so let's talk about that for a second.
Yeah.
Let's talk about Professor Ivo.
Okay.
And so, like, he's in the comics looks for a age or what is it? So he can live forever. Whatever you want to call it. Some kind of serum.
Right.
Like youth serum or something like that.
The Fountain of Youth. He also
creates a bunch of robots.
Right, he creates the Amazo, which is actually, you know, Dr. Ivo's android or whatever is another one that he kind of has done in the TV series as well. Right. And these are all like really powerful things that end up like, you know, beating the heck out of superheroes all over the place too. So he's kind of a threat, to be honest with you. And we'll see how that kind of plays in because the ship he's on is called the Amazo.
Right.
So, which is kind of a cheesy name for a ship, and it's also kind of a cheesy name for anything, to be honest with you. But so I'm glad that they ascribed that to a ship as opposed to like, and this is my friend Amazo, you know, that sort of thing.
Well, he's obviously experimenting on those prisoners.
Yeah.
And it feels like this is just like a pirate boat, you know, like these feel like Somali pirates or something like that.
That's probably it's probably close to the truth, man.
But it's some kind of ship, you know. They're going around and they have prisoners, and he's experimenting on them. I don't know what he's doing in wherever he's at.
Well, he was looking, you know, and they were interrogating Oliver about like those bones.
Yeah, he's looking for the bones.
So
so this all fits in with what we were talking about last week.
Yeah.
With the Fountain of Youth possibly being on the island, and he's looking for it.
Like the Lazarus Pit.
Yeah, the Lazarus Pit.
Yeah, that. My thing is like that's going to be somewhere near Ra'al Ghul, and because Ra'al Ghul he's immortal, and so he gets
like,
in the pit. So,
I don't know why like they would reference that. They would there would be these references. And he's floating around up by this island. He's looking for something, obviously.
Well, we're obviously leaving the island now, though. Like, because Oliver says, hey, I wasn't on the island the whole time. You know, tells Dig this.
Right. Well, at that point, yeah. Well, that's the thing. Well, I don't know if he's leaving the island.
I feel like we're on the boat. We're going somewhere.
Well, maybe. Like, I think leaving the island could mean he's not on the island. He's
gotcha.
On the boat.
He was on the boat.
Yeah.
Floating, you know,
I think
1,000 yards out.
I think at that point, he's about to tell Dig, you know, the story that we're about to see probably in flashbacks.
Right on.
With him and Sarah.
Right on. Okay, so as far as that goes, what do you think that's about? I mean, I feel like we're going to be going to Nanda Barpet sometime.
We could. I don't think Oliver's going there.
You don't think so?
Well, he seemed to be kind of naive about the League of Assassins.
That's probably true. I mean, yeah, you might be right. He's probably not going there. But yeah, the League of Assassins is going to, you know, I feel like that's going to be, Oliver probably has nothing to do with the League of Assassins from here on out. That's going to be
I think we'll see Sarah there eventually.
Yeah, definitely. And we're definitely going to have to deal with this whole Ra'al Ghul thing, you know.
Which, okay, this is something interesting, you know, like instead of now in this episode, the assassin that came after Sarah and Oliver mentioned that Ra's child is not going to be happy, which means Talia, which means she's in charge.
Right. Well, she's always kind of been in charge of the League of Assassins, and he's kind of been just this immortal, you know, kind of dude.
Yeah.
Who's above her, but he rarely steps in, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
So we'll see if Talia shows up. That'd be interesting. Which she ties even closer into the Batman universe, and so we're working towards all of these DC characters, and it feels like we're like very much going into kind of the Batman, and you know that the Arrow and Batman have always kind of had this shared villain lore and universe.
Yeah.
And I feel like we're just diving into that a lot this season, and I love it.
What this does is it sets us up for dealing with Talia in Arrow and Ra in whatever Batman movie
Like
comes out.
Batman?
Yeah.
Wow. I mean, that would make sense. It would for sure make sense to have like kind of a lower level person of Raw, so that way you can save kind of Raw for this amazing actor, that sort of thing, a high budget actor.
Right. Which like I think on the movie side, Warner likes, or whoever's in charge, they like Raw as a catalyst for
like
Batman.
a villain. I mean, he kind of, it's interesting because he kind of he plays that role a lot in the films. So I mean, I love the Nolan take on it and everything. So we'll see if that comes into play into the next iteration of Batman, and if that's maybe shared with this one. So.
Yeah. I mean, the other cool thing, like I hope that they don't kill off Dr. Ivo real fast here, like this season or something like that. Like
he might be around for the long haul, or one of his creations might be around for the long haul.
That's true.
Because I mean, to be honest with you, he hasn't always been the villain. He's more so been the guy who creates the villain.
Well, what would be cool is if this sets him up to maybe be, I don't know, bring in like into the movie universe, because as a villain, with what he did in the comics, it feels like he could be a bigger villain than just somebody that Oliver takes on.
That's true, and he might be, because I mean, we just don't know anything about him right now at this moment. Like you said, he's experimenting on people. Maybe this is like you mentioned last week. Maybe this is a building towards powers type situation where this is going to how we introduce powers.
So you think his experience maybe caused people to gain powers?
I think that may be what he's actually looking for is to I mean, we're obviously with what's his name on the in the city, Blood.
Yeah. Sebastian Blood.
I mean, he's working towards trying to get people. It seemed like Titan or like something to get people super strong. And then this guy seems to be doing a similar thing where he's trying to save the world. And I imagine he's trying to. In my mind, I feel like I theorize that he's trying to make the human race stronger.
All right, hang on. Check this out. What if?
Theory.
Yeah. What if Dr. Ivo is working on a formula that Sebastian Blood in the future now has his hands on?
Ooh, that'd be interesting.
It's not Bane's serum is what we thought it was.
Right.
Maybe it's something from Professor Ivo.
I mean, that may make sense. I mean, especially if they take out if Professor Ivo doesn't make it off this boat or off the island, then someone's going to have to take over his work, that sort of thing. So that would be potentially why we're seeing both of these characters at the same time.
I feel like he will get off the island, or they'll get away, just because otherwise, how would Sarah end up, hooking up with the League of Shadows and all that kind of stuff?
Right.
Like.
So you think we're going to some other seaport somewhere? I
think he is eventually. I think that's how she gets.
Gotcha.
Away from the island.
Gotcha.
Oliver, for some reason, ends up staying there.
Okay. I mean, and as far as that goes, like, it seems like now Oliver can come and go as he pleases. And so, like, I wonder just how much freedom and how much he was actually, like, trapped on this island back in the day. I don't think
he can come and go as he pleases. Like, he's just saying, like, he's captive on this boat now.
Like, well, yeah, but this season, I'm saying, like, the first episode of this season, they go to the island and find him.
Which is so weird.
It was weird. And so, like, I'm trying to, like, put that into the puzzle piece here, where I feel like he could probably come and go as he pleases from the island, especially if he can now. He probably could then too, but we just didn't. We just didn't know until now. So
yeah, maybe that's possible.
Okay, so let's just kind of touch on a couple of the other characters. Felicity and Dig. Mm-hmm. They didn't really play a huge role. I wish we would see more of Dig, man. I think we will next week. In the preview, it seemed like we were going to see a little bit more of him next week.
We definitely will.
But his character's so cool, and I wanted to see him suit up. Like, whenever he's like, he cocks his gun and he's like, "All right, I'm going with you." I was like, "Yes, let's suit up, Dig. Let's see this. Hood up or whatever."
Hood up,
and
yes.
and ride. But I don't even know. It's like he didn't even go anywhere. So I really hope that in the not just next episode, but in the future, we see more of him being involved in the action.
Right.
Because right now, I feel like he's kind of he's playing the priest role for Oliver right now.
Well, he's kind of playing the same role that like Alfred would play.
That's true.
In Batman. And so, like, he comes and he gives him advice whenever he's at the cave,
right?
The lair or whatever he calls it.
Listens to
him, and like helps
drinks
him.
vodka with him.
Yeah, drinks vodka with him. So, like, I feel like he's just kind of in that advisory role.
That makes sense. So the only other thing that I wanted to really touch on this week was just the action of the show.
Yeah.
I felt like the first few action sequences were like they started off really cool.
Yeah.
But it's like I feel like we've seen better from the show.
Yeah, they kind of devolved. Like the choreography wasn't exactly there.
And I feel like the cinematography wasn't quite as intense.
Right.
It seemed like they were more like steady wide shots,
right,
as opposed to like these close quarters, like impact driven battle.
Yeah, it didn't feel as frenetic as it should.
Right. Which is interesting because 2 episodes ago we had some of the best action we've seen on the show.
Right.
And it's just kind of one of those things that I was hoping for a little bit more. It started off really awesome with the assassin jumping through the window.
Yeah.
That was pretty cool. And then Oliver returning the favor in the clock tower later. That was a nice little slip there. And then the other scene that I loved, the scene that was probably my favorite in the episode, was the scene whenever they go see the assassin and he's walking around talking to Oliver in this big warehouse or whatever. That scene was like incredibly intense and it was incredibly well written. The dialogue and the delivery was just beautiful. So that was probably my favorite.
So where do you think that the Canary has gone?
Where do you think? Man, I feel like she's probably either on the run or she's going to deal with this League of Assassins situation.
I don't know if she's on the I don't know if she's. I don't think she'll go very far from her family.
Right on. I'm inclined to say the same thing because what if the League of Assassins goes after her family again? How's she going to stop them unless she's nearby?
Right.
I don't know what she's really going to be doing.
Right. I mean, she's obviously probably going to be in the flashbacks next episode.
Right.
And how that will tie in. I don't think that this character's going anywhere.
Right.
I don't think she's going to be gone for, 5 episodes or something like that. I think she'll probably be back in a couple weeks.
Right.
If not next week. I don't know. Maybe she'll play a part. Maybe she'll still be around Starling City just beating up people in the hood.
It seemed like, though, next episode is going to be more like not in Starling City even.
Yeah.
It seems like we're going to travel.
Yeah, it did seem like we were going to travel, which is interesting.
Which is an interesting thing that we haven't seen on the show before is something outside of Starling City or the island.
Yeah.
So we're going to venture out into the Arrow universe or potentially the DC universe, fingers crossed.
Yeah.
And see what's out there.
So do you think do you like where the Canary's character is right now?
Yes, I do. I feel like she's developing really nicely. As far as these emotional things, there's this big mystery around her. The first and second times that we saw her, and I loved that mystery. But I think that the direction that we've taken her in and the direction she's going is there's still this element of like, man, she could anything could happen with her.
Yeah.
Where she's not fully expendable.
Yeah.
But she's not fully in the club yet.
Yeah.
Where she's not like this regular.
It'd be awesome if she was a regular and would team up with Oliver and kind of help him out.
Yeah.
I really liked the just kind of vibe of truthfulness in this episode. She revealed herself to her father. Moira is, being a little more open and saying, I don't care if these things come out.
Right.
And Oliver with Dig at the end was just saying, here, I'm tired of hiding all this stuff.
Yeah.
And I love that. Something that I enjoy are mysteries within shows, but I also like them whenever they pay off and they actually reveal some things to you.
That makes sense.
And it doesn't feel cheap whenever the characters are just coming to this realization, man, this is just heavy stuff to carry around, and I'm not going to.
And that's an interesting theme that we played on and that I hadn't thought about until you just said it, because we have Laurel who's not being truthful with anyone, and her life is descending into
she's the opposite.
Yeah,
basically.
it's this terrible. It's the opposite of exactly what everybody else is doing. Something that I loved, the interplay between Felicity and the Canary, or Sarah. I liked that interplay because it came across as
genuine,
genuine and sisterly almost to a certain extent.
Yeah, they definitely connected, which was cool.
Right, which I feel like that's an interesting thing that the show always plays on is the different elements of the characters. So.
Yeah.
All right, so as far as what do you expect next week?
The next week just looks all about Dig, which is pretty cool, and I think we'll see a lot of action involving both Oliver and Dig, which is cool.
So are we hooding up and going over there, or are we going to be like
Oliver may be hooding up,
yeah,
but I don't know that Dig will hood up.
Gotcha. I'm kind of the same way. I feel like we're going to see a little bit more of that. And that's what I really wanted. I feel like Diggle is due for a little bit more of a role.
Yeah, we'll see how it goes next week, and what we end up with. But I hope it's not just like, hey, Diggle goes and gets in trouble, and then Oliver has to come save him.
I don't think that's what it's going to be. I think we're going to be playing a little bit more into Diggle's backstory with the with his brother and things like that as well. I feel like we're going to be playing a little bit more on those cues. Maybe it's more about his special forces past. Maybe we'll learn a little bit more about that. But we'll have to see.
Nice.
All right, so to finish up, got some quotes for us here. We've got a canary who said, "Pain." And I came to a little understanding a while back. And then as far as our Laurel goes, she says, "What's so wrong with me that everybody leaves?" And then we have, "So this is where you wanted your father to die." And that's the scary, League of Assassins.
This is where you wanted your father to die.
So this is where you wanted him to die. And it's like, whoa, this guy's intense, man. And then my favorite
It's just
one.
very self-confident.
Oh, yeah, dude. He was just like all over it. He thought he had that in the bag.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
And then as far as the League of Assassins goes, it was, so what's the League of Assassins? And please don't say it's a league filled with assassins.
Yes.
That was from Felicity.
That's a classic Felicity line.
Yeah, that's a great line.
They do a really good job of writing her consistently, and it's very witty.
Yeah, it's very witty, and then like she comes, she has those moments where she talks too much and that sort of thing.
Yeah, she says things that like she almost breaks the fourth wall sometimes.
That's true.
She's definitely speaking like what a cynic would say, like in that situation.
And then just accidentally,
a cynical audience member, that's what they would say, is what comes out of her mouth.
Right. And
the two little Muppets that are like, oh, that's Felicity.
That's Felicity, that's her character.
That's
but she's both Muppets.
Right,
so,
she's both of them at the same time.
That makes sense. She does talk a lot. So. All right, guys, that's all we have for this episode. Make sure you check us out online at stayontargetpodcast.com. And we'll see you next time on Arrow on Target.